Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for staying for the second presentation. Hopefully this magenta is not killing your eyes. It will be present throughout the presentation. So, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Anca, and today I want to talk to you about something I feel every one of us is feeling at work today, but maybe we don't verbalize as much. So yes, AI made us better. It made us faster. For me personally, it helped me a lot in getting unstuck, prototyping faster, understanding unfamiliar code, and so on. But unfortunately, it also made me incredibly exhausted. And I don't mean exhausted in the kind of technology is bad, let's all go live into the woods. It's something more subtle than that. It's just that one day I was sitting in front of the computer writing code, and suddenly the next day I was not doing that anymore, or at least not that much. So this is an honest look into the life of a developer in the AI era, with a question in the back of my head if, honestly, do we even enjoy it anymore, and do we like what we are doing? But before I go any further, no? Okay. Before I go any further, I want to clarify something. These are my qualifications. I'm a core software engineer, a community lead at tim.js. What I am not is an AI expert. I'm not pretending to be one. I don't have all the answers. This is not a research talk. This is more like a field report from someone who uses AI every day, gets value from it, and honestly tries to just ship software and stay relevant and up to date. Which brings me to my first disclaimer. This is not an anti-AI talk, so you didn't listen from Adi why it's good to use AI just for me to come now and tell you it's not. I honestly use AI. I like AI a lot. I also have a bunch of questions. And whether we should or shouldn't use AI is not one of those questions, because frankly, I don't think we have any choice anymore. We are using it, even the people who were opposing it in the beginning. And we use it because it's genuinely, truly amazing, and it helps us with a lot of things. And I left this intentionally blank because this is precisely what AI is great at. It's good at fixing blank page syndrome. So maybe you have an idea in your mind, so you don't really know where to start. You kind of know what you want to do. Maybe you want to do like a quick MVP. You don't want to spend your time writing the boilerplate. Maybe you want to explore a new API that you haven't used before, or you just need to write a quick RFC. For me, and I think for a lot of you, AI lowers the activation energy. It gives you something that you can react to. And of course, it's not perfect, not in the beginning, but the point is, it's something. The page no longer stares at you aggressively blank. It's like having a super enthusiastic colleague that always does the first draft for you. But there is an important caveat. I never know how to pronounce this word, hopefully. Caveat? I used to say caveat, so it's anything I say now is better. Okay, there is one important. The first drafts are not neutral. They largely influence where we are moving forward. But still, we can all agree AI is great at removing unpleasant work. So let's look a bit at the data. It looks like in some instances, the burnout scores are lower by 15%. So you may be thinking, Anca, what the hell are you talking about? This was supposed to be a presentation about how AI induces burnout. Well, actually, studies show that if we use it to remove routine work or repetitive work, the Boston Consulting Group survey showed that actually the burnout scores are a lot lower. And it makes sense because AI does indeed feel like a superpower. We debug faster, we learn faster, we prototype faster, everything is faster, and we get those tiny dopamine hits. We get fast feedback, and the feeling becomes really addictive. But suddenly, the work feels faster, and with every superpower, unfortunately, we also get side effects. And these side effects can be very subtle at first, but then the workload starts to creep. The boundaries start to become blurred, and eventually you get into what we call decision fatigue. The job changes because AI does not only remove work, unfortunately, or fortunately actually, it transforms work. And how we feel about this is largely dependent on why we started programming in the first place. Which brings me to the next section. But I still want to ask you, think for a second, why did you get into programming? I remember Adi was saying in one of his presentations that he got into programming because he liked gaming. For me, I joined programming because I did an HTML website when I was 13 and never recovered after that. Some of you may love computers in general. It doesn't matter what motive you have, but it matters in the context of AI usage because AI does not only modify the speed of programming, it modifies the emotional experience that we are having while doing our job. So yeah, if you're the kind of person who joined programming because you like shipping stuff, you like adding business value, maybe you like to create MVPs and go straight to market with them, you're probably thriving on AI because this, if this is what motivates you, it gets you a lot closer, a lot faster from the idea to the end product. But maybe you're on the other side of the spectrum and you joined programming because you loved the craft, you love JavaScript, you love the code, you love everything about it, even the little struggles that we have. In this case, you probably feel a little bit robbed because since we are using AI, the parts you used to love about programming got compressed, if not skipped altogether. For me, I'm somewhere in between. I care a lot about the product, but I also care about the craft. And I think this is what we call a product engineer. And I feel like if you can switch your mindset into being a product engineer, the future can be quite enjoyable for you. And this is why I found something someone told me super interesting. In a group chat, I asked someone if they use AI at their job, and they said, no, we don't use AI, we use our brains. And I was like rolling my eyes a little bit because what do you mean? I feel like I'm exerting my brain way more than I used to before. But then I paused for a bit and I thought a bit from a different perspective, and I tried to understand, okay, there's no question, we are using our brains. It's not like they are suddenly unemployed. But what are we using so many resources of our cognition towards? Actually, AI changes the shape of thinking. It's not less thinking, it's different thinking. Let's look at how things were before and notice some patterns. Before, we used to write code, debug, review, and eventually own. Now, first, we frame the problem. We prompt it, we verify, we decide if we accept or not accept the output. But eventually, the last step out of the process is owning it. And this is very important. And this is a page allegedly from an internal IBM training manual from 1979. The source is not verified, but even if it's not true, the idea is still very, very valid. A computer can never be held accountable, therefore a computer must never make a management decision. So going back to our flow, I think this is the most important part that we as humans should think about. It's the owning that never changed, because once we merge some code, it is ours. It's not ChatGPT's, it's not Claude's. We cannot hold any of the tools responsible for what we do. And once I started thinking about it this way, I actually noticed some interesting differences between how my day looked as a developer in, say, 2020. This is a random year, but I tried not to be in the COVID era. It's actually right before, and 2026. So let's look at what we used to have on our plate every day. We used to have some complex tasks. We used to do some planning, some prototyping, maybe some UMLs like drawings that like Adi is doing. We used to discuss a lot amongst us and come up with a plan. this is not scientific, but this is my perception. This took about like 20% of our work time. And then the rest of 80% we used for executing on the plan. So we now have a plan, we enter into execution mode. And that meant stuff like writing components, writing boilerplate, asking Stack Overflow, talking with your colleagues, and so on and so forth. But things have switched completely into 2026, at least in my perspective. Yes, we have less boring work, but we no longer have those easy wins that we used to have when doing the simple things. So our brain needs moments where it needs to move forward while still recovering. And I'm arguing that it's very difficult to do that while you are stuck in the 80% above. The 80% are now ambiguity, orchestration, ownership, integration. Our challenges are completely different. And the easy tasks were delegated to AI. So AI gets the easy wins we used to have before. And yeah, it didn't remove the hard work, it actually expanded it. And to further explain why this is important, we have to understand that this is not something that's unique to software. Let's imagine the automation done into a call center. Human call center operators used to have a day like this. They used to have some routine calls like, what time do you open? Where is my package? I don't know, how much does this cost? And then they get those super angry customers that are with which they are having very emotionally draining conversations. Unfortunately for the operator, all those routine calls are very, very predictable and repeatable, which means they are very easy to automate, which is exactly what happens. A day after AI automation for the operator looks like this. They are left with less easy wins and more difficult customers because the robots get the low friction ones. I'm wondering, how do you think those people are feeling? I'm going to just give you this as a hint, because at the end of the day, you kind of feel exhausted. When you get faster, you are not rewarded with rest. So did you increase your productivity by 20% using AI? Congratulations, you just got yourself some bandwidth, some free cycles, some, I don't know, capacity, whatever you want to call it. And I want to say this very clear, and not because the WeVideo team is here. It's not what companies are doing to us, it's what we are doing to ourselves most often. And this happens because AI makes it feel possible. And this is why we volunteer. Companies gave us access to the tools, and they, in most cases, I'm going to give a counterexample later, but in most cases, we are not mandated to use them. Like here they are, use them if you want. And people jumped on that train, and they worked faster, they took broader tasks, and in many cases, they extended the work into many hours, even after the regular 9 to 5. And I see myself into that a lot. I recognize myself. This is what high-functioning anxiety does to you. You get into overwork, and overwork starts to feel more like curiosity than exertion. And yeah, I don't need some manager to exploit me. I have my own ambition and Wi-Fi, so I'll do that to myself. But thing is, we don't just use it for our work. We start taking a segue to another lane, and we start expanding on our tasks, and not my job becomes doable. Maybe you as a front-end engineer, instead of asking your back-end colleague to write up an endpoint for you, you think, oh, what if I do it myself? Because suddenly it seems a lot easier. Or you need just another prop into a response. How hard can it be, right? And AI fills the gaps in the knowledge, and what you previously delegated, you take upon yourself. And this is why, I don't know, Product people are starting prototyping. Front-end developers are writing Java code. Maybe developers are writing copy for the website. And not all of this is wrong. I think curiosity cross domains is actually very beneficial for the teams. But you have to be very careful when you start absorbing someone else's responsibilities. Because yes, it's easy to do, easy to get started, but what about owning it after? What if something breaks? Will you be responsible for it? Well, not if you don't have enough expertise. One thing that I need to leave you with is you may have the confidence of a full stack team, but remember, you always have the calendar of just one person. And I want to show you what confidence can do. This is a work of art done by a lot of confidence and ChatGPT when you suddenly can become a plumber and save some money. But this was just a fun example. Thing is, you sometimes just want to do the dang thing and not because it feels so easy. And I used to love the clarity we had with programming. Maybe some of you know that I had a different career before I started programming. And the reason why I switched was exactly that clarity. Do you want a button? I'll give you a button. Do you want a page that looks like this, exactly like this PSD? I'll give you a page that looks pixel perfect to that. So I used to love making the things, but now AI promoted me without asking, and I am a supervisor for some very fast machine that is doing the thing. And I'm not sure I'm enjoying it anymore, or not as much, because AI shifts developers into what we call oversight. And it's oversight that adds cognitive load. And more code is not more progress. I was talking to Teolin during the break about this, and I feel it's very, very valid for a lot of us. Yes, we can create more code, a lot of code, but the human capacity to review it is very limited. And of course, we can add some tools to help us, but realistically, I don't think we can even come close to the capacity we have for generation. And I remember a few years ago when talking with some DevOps people about a performance problem, they were saying, hardware is cheap. Let's throw some hardware to the problem, increase our resources, because code is expensive. It's more expensive to have the developers actually fix the performance problem than adding some more, I don't know, machines to handle the increased traffic. Well, newsflash, I feel like now code is very cheap, but what remains expensive is actually quality and understanding and review. So things have changed a bit, and now we have a bottleneck with this review. So let's see how this bottleneck moved. We now have the capacity to generate, yes. The first step of this entire flow was done good for us. But this is where the bottlenecks start showing up, because all these are trending down. And even if we fix the review part, we'll just move the bottleneck a bit further down the line, because we need to actually find ways to deal with all of them. And since we are talking about how we deal with this brings me to the cost of it, the cost of it all. And I don't mean tokens and money. This is where the presentation becomes less about productivity and more about what it does to our mental health. And I want, inspired by Andrei, I want to ask you a very technical question. How many cores does your brain have? If you think about it, we used to have like one single core approach to our day. It was not perfectly calm, but our days used to have a sense of flow, a pretty calm flow. You open your laptop in the morning, you have your coffee, you open Slack, maybe you do a code review, you have your daily meeting, you code some more, you get some meetings. Everything happens in a pretty calm sequence. This is how I feel it happens now, because you have a little bit of everything all of the time. And now things feel a little bit more chaotic, and somewhere in between all of this, you are supposed to hold the thought. And I also asked a lot of colleagues and friends what they are doing while the agent is thinking. So if you start an agent and it starts working, thinking, what do you do? The single core people are the ones who follow that agent. They look at what it's doing, follow it, intervene if necessary. Other people, on the other hand, are completely to the opposite end of the spectrum, and they are spinning up like 3 or 4 agents at the same time. They move from one to another and actually work on multiple issues at the same time. If you can do this, I respect you, I almost fear you. For me, it doesn't work like that. Because I have a problem with attention deficit in general. I've had this my whole life, and now you have to imagine, it's so bad that sometimes when the courier calls me to get outside, I say, I'll be out in a second, I hang up the phone, and I instantly forget. And they call me again to come get my damn package. So what do you think happens when the spinner starts running and the agent starts working? Get on Instagram, of course. I pick up my phone. I do anything else. I reply to emails. I reply on Slack. I do all of these things. And then I remember I go 1 hour later back, and that thing was stuck on a grab permission all along, and it did not do anything. So for me, it's terrible. It's not something that's sustainable. And I try to use some tools. For instance, I don't know if you know Focus Friend. It's an app on your phone that has like a little character who's knitting, and it blocks your phone. And if you unlock your phone, the little character loses his knitting, so it makes you feel very guilty for that, and you don't no longer pick up your phone. And you get to buy stuff for it. It's really cute. Another thing I do is also I use caveman mode. Thank you, Raresh, for recommending it. It's just because I cannot deal with the amount of text. Like, give me the summary. I don't want to hear all the fancy words it's using, so it's easier for me to follow. But yeah, if you're like me and you feel overwhelmed, you are not alone. And it actually has a name. It's called brain fry. And this is the definition of brain fry, the mental fatigue from excessive AI usage or oversight beyond your cognitive capacity. And we don't always do it, but we sometimes do it. And the symptoms are pretty gnarly. It starts with brain fog. It gets you into slower decision. You get buzzing. You get even physical symptoms like headaches, and you're generally overwhelmed. And if you're wondering what causes this, is precisely that oversight, because oversight is work. And I want to ask you, how many times when you were in a meeting, someone told you at the end of the meeting, okay, guys, let's go back to work? What have we been doing so far? Meetings are work. Conversations are work. Coordination is work. So is oversight. And you might hear people saying, AI is working for you. Or even worse, AI is working instead of you. But actually, holding the context and doing oversight is a lot of work, even though it doesn't look like that in the beginning. But I have numbers that support what I'm saying. It's from a Harvard Business Review article. Actually, oversight introduces 14% more mental effort, 12% more fatigue, and 19% more information overload. So things are not looking very good. But because we are developers, once we've seen an AI tool has helped us, what do? What if we use 3 of them? What if we use 5? Because that's how our brains work. So how many AI tools are too many? And fortunately, we have data for that again. We have the productivity rating and the number of tools used all at once. It looks like when we go from 0 to 3, productivity skyrockets. But once we move past that point, it starts to dip, and it dips quite fast. And it makes sense if you think about it, because it becomes a lot less about the original problem and more about managing all the tools. And I can give you an example here. Poor Raresh had a pull request where he got like three code review agents started at once on a not so big pull request. All the agents were doing the review. They posted 27 comments instantly. And yeah, they were not arguing with each other. Largely, they were saying the same thing, but just triaging through all those comments took unnecessary effort and time. So yeah, pay attention at the number of tools you are using and figure out when your productivity actually starts to dip. And speaking of multiples and multiple agents, maybe you're also the kind of person who can't stand idle agents. I've heard this from a lot of people. When the agents aren't working, they feel somehow guilty, somehow like they have a duty to fill that time with something. Sorry. Maybe you're the kind of person who just has one more prompt during lunch, or just one check during coffee, or you're sneaking work into meetings. We are all in meetings where probably we won't need to talk, but we still have to pay attention nonetheless. These are the kinds of meetings when people are doing some work on the side, especially if it's so easy that you can do it on your phone. And the next thing you know, you're feeding your agents after midnight. But you have to remember, your brain needs recovery, and you don't notice it at first. You don't go, tonight I'm gonna wreck completely my recovery. It just feels harder to stop, because yes, AI makes it very easy to start, but very incredibly hard to stop. Work starts to feel not like something that starts or ends. Work becomes more ambient. It's always available, always possible, always running in the background, especially if, like I said, you get the agents onto your phone. And this happens because prompts don't really feel like work. Prompts feel harmless. It feels like it's just asking a question, right? Or just chatting, or just, I don't know, super lightweight. And the reality is that you hold a lot of context, and you have a lot of decisions and a lot of information to process. And this is very taxing on your brain. But because feedback is so fast, it becomes insanely rewarding and addictive. And you get on that productivity high because, yeah, fast feedback feels really good. Who doesn't like the feeling of being able to do so much more almost overnight? But sometimes AI doesn't help you work. AI just helps you find more work, especially if you're the kind of person who's very reliable in a company. You know that that person in your company that's the go-to person, the one who always says, yeah, I'll have a look. Yeah, I'll unblock you with this. Because and we have to protect these reliable people at all costs, even and especially if that is you. So yeah, the people who finish things, who are used to getting things done, the people who always sometimes manage. But these people are getting now more scope. They are getting more code reviews and document reviews, and they are getting more meta work because they have to set up this whole thing. Eventually, they have less recovery. Basically, what this means is that these kinds of people, and I'm betting a lot of you are out of this category, just found more ways to be useful, more ways to say yes, and more ways to actually absorb the invisible work. And you may think, well, all you need is some boundaries. But while boundaries are great, the system was rigged way before AI. And it's always the most reliable and capable people that are the first to burn out. I remember like 10 years ago, when I was just starting into this domain and I was struggling to make a name for myself in the industry and prove myself, I was working super hard, and I was giving like 100%, 110% every day. And the business analyst told me, Anca, you're eventually going to burn out. If you give 110% each day, you'll burn out, but the client will continue to ask the same amount that you've used them to. So yeah, we have to be super careful and think of mental health not as a personal optimization problem. Yes, individual habits matter, but in this era, we cannot only fix everything with productivity tips. So, newsflash, you cannot Pomodoro yourself out of this. Which brings me to companies. I think companies should have norms and standards around AI usage. I know we have a lot of them at WeVideo, for example. I think every company should have them. We need a human-centered AI working protocol, or AI practice, how Harvard Business Review called it. And if you're thinking who should set up that working protocol, it's probably you, because you're the experts, and expertise matters now more than ever. Which brings me to another part that's super important for us. What happens to the expertise? Because AI can make, I can start this, sound like I really know what I'm doing. And because we have so much fluent output, we sometimes forget that we need someone to judge it. And AI can make us some... Maybe, I don't know. But AI can make us feel a lot more competent than we actually are. So you can briefly become a plumber, like I showed you earlier, a nutritionist, a senior JavaScript developer, or anything you want, because what previously sounded unachievable is now definitely possible. But AI sometimes, rarely, but sometimes is wrong. And if you don't have enough domain expertise, it's going to be very difficult for you to spot that one tiny error that will later probably ruin your entire implementation. So less domain knowledge, harder it is to judge AI output. So you may be like, cool code, bro, looks good to me. But instead, that code was ignoring patterns, introducing regressions, and missing the business content. And notice I say domain, not technology, because I'm very, very sure that AI knows JavaScript better than me. It knows TypeScript or the language way better than me. But I'm also pretty sure it's not better at understanding, I don't know, business logic and some trade-offs that we've had to make, or some strategy that we've put together and we want to follow for the next 3 years. And you may think, well, yeah, but we can feed all of this information into its context and it can make informed decisions. Well, think of it like this. You're saying this to the people who couldn't be bothered to write a small README file for the colleagues to understand, a small documentation, and now we are suddenly prepping lots of documentation for training models. I don't think so. So until we find a way to fix this, it's still the expertise is still the filter. Quickly, what this means is weak judgment introduces liability. Things can be technically valid but strategically wrong, and we have to pay attention. And since experts are still needed into this loop, do you know who else just become insanely relevant? The manual QAs. After being threatened to extinction for so many years, like we told them repeatedly, we are going to automate your work, guess who's relevant now? Because, yeah, we are building a lot of code and we are actually very capable of generating tests for that code. But if we write the code and generate the tests on the same assumptions, things can become a little bit murky. So after 20 pull requests merge, it's the manual QA who says, like, cool thing, bro, but does it work? Because they are the ones who have the empathy, the human empathy, and the context from the clients and everything in the business to understand that even though our implementations may be correct, they are not what the customers need. And this brings us to another human part of AI today, and very tied to the event we are at today. It's how people learn. I feel like people ask AI way more than mentors or the community. And this is visible in the lack of conversation on our Discord, on tim.js, for instance. It's much easier to find an answer using AI. And we can take a look at what happened. Oh, sorry, I'm going to go quickly through this. At what happened to ChatGPT after, to Stack Overflow after ChatGPT launches. It dipped and it accelerated its downfall incredibly a lot. But the questions, they did not disappear. They just moved from public learning to private learning. And Andrei, if I can use your analogy from another presentation, public learning is like a Dacia engine. Not perfect, but you kind of see the moving parts out of it. You understand it, you see where things start to break, where they are falling behind, and it's basically transparent. But questions moved from this public learning space to a private learning. People start using ChatGPT, Cloud Copilot, and I don't know, God and Elon Musk knows what's there because I compared it to the Tesla engine. So Yeah, mentorship, I feel, is still something that matters, even though we've seen this trend a lot, because AI is very good at giving you the correct answers, but mentors will actually not give you the answer. Mentors are very good at guiding you to finding the answer through critical thinking, and I feel like that's an important skill to have in the future as well. And don't get me wrong, AI is amazing at learning. I learned Vue.js using AI. I don't imagine doing it, reading the documentation. But we need to protect the human spaces where we share our standards, where we talk to each other, and where we build community, because community is still infrastructure. I don't think any of us come to tim.js so someone can tell you what a closure is, because that ship is long sailed. I think maybe you come to meetups like this because you want to find people that are like-minded, people you can discuss with, people who you can argue with, people who share from their experience and help you, or you can help each other figure out solutions for problems that are ailing all of us. So yeah, please continue to come to this meetup and others. And yeah, speaking about solutions, what's the fix? What do we do? Because, and everything I'm about to suggest is not about not using AI. So if we think about what to do, this is definitely not the answer. This is a protest anti-AI. So no, we don't have to pull the plug. We just need to find more intentional ways of using AI. And the good news is, going back to the community thing, we don't have to do it alone. Actually, the way I see it, there are things that can be done at any level, starting from a junior developer to the CEO of a company. And if we go through them, I can give you some examples. So let's see some examples of what every individual can do, if you're a programmer or not. You can protect your attention, because it's not the tokens that run out instantly. It's your attention first. That's the scarce resource. And you can set up for yourself a personal AI protocol. Like for myself, I just try to keep one deep thread. Even if I have more agents, I must have one that's a principal. I have some mechanisms to notice when I'm stuck in a loop. I always try, whenever I build something with an agent, before accepting anything, I run it through my head and try to explain it to myself to make sure I actually understand it. And protecting this type of judgment is actually done easily by not using the AI as an agreeable assistant, but using it as an adversary. So here are some things you can ask it, some prompts. You can ask it not to agree with you. Because AI is very, very good at giving you what you ask for. But unfortunately, most of the times we ask for validation. And validation feels good, but is not very, very efficient or useful. And I have some resources for this. First, you can use a skill like GrillMe. It's a skill that stress tests your plan before building. It was built by Matt Pocock, but I'm sure there are many more. This is just an example. Or if you are lucky enough to use both Codex and Claude Code, you can have this adversarial review plugin that will help you with agents fighting each other, if you enjoy that type of thing. Or you can just, I don't know, get into Codex code or commits that were done by Claude and just ask it to do a code review for you. And then we must remember the time, to protect our time. Saved time doesn't mean free capacity. So if you saved 30 minutes on a task, don't immediately jump into the next one. Use it to learn something. Use it to, I don't know, take a walk, go to the gym for 20 minutes. But don't jump straight to the next task, and actually try to protect your mental health, because that's not laziness, that is sustainability on the long run. And that's how you will produce better quality. Moving on next to what senior plus people can do. First things first, I think it's the senior plus people's responsibility on how AI enters the code base. And there are a few things they can do to help. A lot of AI adoption is actually done by imitation, so you must lead by example. Don't just tell people to use AI, coach them how to use it safely. Show them the prompt, show them the bad prompt, show them when you ask for risk, show them when you don't accept the first draft. Teach them not to bypass critical thinking. And honestly, the safest AI behavior is learned socially. I can give you an example. We used to write RFCs at WeVideo, and sometimes we've put code snippets into the RFCs. And I noticed that when there are code snippets into the RFC, whenever someone picked up that RFC for implementation, they just copy-pasted the code. Because if it's there, it must be good, right? Someone investigated, so it must be good. And sometimes that bypassed the critical thinking. And I think this happens a lot now, because the code looks beautiful when it's generated by AI and it's conveniently shaped. So it's very easy for us to just click accept without passing it through the critical thinking filter. Then we must make review load visible. Don't let people quietly drown in tens of code reviews, and don't let them skip them or be superficial. I mentioned a few slides ago about tools. We can implement tools, but we need to find ways to actually make time for the people to focus on the important pull requests. Because maybe, I don't know, a bump version or a small CSS change doesn't need as much attention as something that has potential to break the application. And last, what companies and managers can do. And I'm going to start with what you shouldn't do. Don't measure activity. A lot of companies are doing this, even FANG companies. I think Meta measures the number of tokens people are using and actually adding it to their performance review metrics, which is frankly crazy. So I mean it, don't. We have to think about outcome versus output and how tokens have no real impact. I mentioned I use Caveman, which means I'm saving a lot of tokens. So why should I be punished for that? If you measure something, people will optimize for it. So if you want more generated code, you'll get more generated code. But what you will not get is better software. And then, as a company, you can clarify the deal and tell people what happens when AI saves them time, where it's safe to go. I'll be honest with you, with so many layoffs in the industry, people are now more stressed than ever. Don't assume they know it's okay to rest. Tell them it's okay to take breaks, it's okay to rest, and they deserve it. Because otherwise, if you're constantly bragging about how AI made you a lot faster, what people are hearing is, I must do more, faster, constantly. And that's not beneficial for everyone. And since we're at companies, it's managers that need training too. And we can look at some numbers. Teams that were supported and had a manager who understood AI and was able to answer questions about workload expectations and boundaries and accountabilities, those teams are experiencing 15% less mental fatigue. So yeah, managers don't need to be AI experts themselves, but they need to understand and actually shape the work. To end it with something, it's not just governance that we need that I'm going back to that human-centered AI protocol. We need to learn as a company to pause before we make important decisions and pace ourselves and protect our focus, because we cannot possibly constant react to things. Things are happening way too fast for us to react to everything. And eventually we need to ground in human conversation. We have to talk through decisions, bring people back into the loop, share doubts, and eventually keep team accountability and judgment alive. Humans may be slow, humans may be tired, but to end on a good note, the human engineer is not deprecated. AI can optimize for speed, but it cannot optimize for meaning. So my last thought for you is to use AI as a power tool, not a nervous system. The goal is not to generate more code. The goal is to stay human enough to build what still matters. And this is a tweet from Thibault Sotio, who's a member of the technical staff team at OpenAI, who says, pretty much on the same note, Codex can do incredible things on demand, but it cannot experience life for you. Don't forget to get out there and remember what you're building for. I really think that's a nice quote. And with that, I would like to thank you for listening to me and bearing with those strobo lights. Do you have anything to add to that? Teoli.
Is it working? Thank you, Anca, for the presentation. I think it was really needed to change the focus from the technical stuff to us, because we do matter. I have a slightly different experience, and I think I can add a couple of more suggestions to how to cope with AI. In the past 3 years, I've experienced the opposite of exhaustion and fatigue. To be honest, it's been the best years in coding that I've ever seen. At first, because I was an early adopter, people didn't really use AI yet. I was lucky enough to work with neural networks and machine learning before AI. So I jumped straight in. I paid my own accounts before the company realized it's useful to us. And they didn't realize I did much of a stuff with AI, and I got a lot of time back, and I used it. But now they figured it out, unfortunately. So what can you do?
Now the backlog knows.
Yes. Pretty much everything that I suggest or I tried and works is not AI related. In no particular order. The good old skill of knowing when and how to say no, I think, is more relevant than ever, because I heard so much. Can you double your output? Can you 10x it? Like the AWS conference was all about 10xing and how they improved the performance 10, 15 times. And funnily enough, they only presented those kind of stuff that is easily done by a junior developer. It's greenfield projects. So yes, those are easy for AI, and yeah, easy wins. But they never talk about that particular bug that you solved with AI. Could have taken you like, I don't know, 3 hours, but took you 1 day because AI couldn't figure out it was a bug in, I don't know, some dependency, not in your actual code. And it took you more time. So yes, some instances will be like that. Not all of them, minority, fortunately, but still. On average, if people talk about 10xing, I frankly don't believe that. So if managers push for that, you need to push back. You need to let them know, look, I can do this because I need to check. I generate a lot of code. Do you want me to check it? Do you want me to own it? If yes, let me freaking do that. Otherwise, you check it. I can generate as much as you want. No problem. That's one. The other thing is the spinner question. What do you do when it spins? And at the beginning, I was doing 2, 3 in parallel. So running on multiple projects, that was a really bad idea. It didn't work out for me. Maybe some of you can multitask. I can't. I suck at that. So what I do is because I'm very lazy and I'm very sedentary, I use that time to do little exercises, like literally get off the chair and...
Physical exercises.
Yeah, physical exercises. I bought like rubber bands from Lidl and balls and stuff, and I literally do like 2-3 minutes of exercise. That is tremendously useful, both for your physical self, but also because your brain doesn't stop. So you continue to think, oh, but what was it doing? And then you come up with some idea you might have not thought of if you keep staring at the screen. So I really suggest you try that for a week or 2, see what happens. Maybe it works, maybe not. Maybe you can do something else. Go play with your children, watch some TV, do something, cook. Maybe that's dangerous because you might burn something. But anyway, do something else while it spins. Don't start another project in parallel. So that brings me to the third thing I try, and I pestered my team, and they hate me for it, but now they really like where we got to. Go atomic. I've been for years. I kept on pushing that. We need to split everything in smaller tasks. No more 8-point PRs or 21-point PRs. if you give me anything bigger than 5, I will not take it. And I literally said no to PRs that were too big. I said, let's split them or I'm not taking them. And we split them. We realized, that's not a 5-pointer. That's not a 8-point, whatever. That's something else. Because the bigger the uncertainty and the complexity, the worse we are at estimating what's there and how much work we need to put in. So go atomic, release fast, often, and do one thing at a time.
Yeah, there is a company in Timișoara who actually requires people to do like 3 PRs a day. We're using AI, so maybe this can fix it. Do 3 small PRs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, but it happens.
You need to fight that back.
Yeah. I think every one of us has their own productivity tips, and in the interest of community, you can all go into Discord and share those if you want, because I feel like, it's important.
All right.
You're the one who does more, right?
Or
at the same time?
One more I want to share. There are many other ideas, but one more that is really useful. Regression testing. That's the kind of testing that's really tough to do, but AI makes it really easy. So what does that mean? We do some very complex calculations in our application, and if we do something wrong, we introduce a bug. So we took a sample of customers, and we run and make a copy of the numbers. We do the commit, we push the PR, deploy it. If the numbers are different, problem. And it fails a lot, a freaking lot, because those are future regression bugs. So that helped us tremendously because AI doesn't take into consideration the whole picture. And many of those were AI introduced. So push for regression testing, try to use it, it will help a lot. And I'll stop here.
Horia.
So, again with the stick. I have a question. I don't know if you thought about this or you can think about this now. Where do you draw the line between protecting my mental health while doing things, so that I don't do a shit ton of things during a day, and slacking? Because I can give 2 prompts and it's like, okay, I did enough for today. I'm done.
Yeah.
Back in the day, this would have been my day's work. So I'm cool. I'm out.
Yeah, for me, I feel like there are an infinity of things that I could do during the day. It's not just the sprint work, it's a lot of other initiatives that I would like to get involved in, and I try to protect my mental health with setting boundaries at the start of the day. So I get like a plan on what I want to do and try to achieve that. And it's like having a daily with myself in the morning and figuring out some things that I have. And then during the day, I also reserve some capacity for, questions that might appear. Maybe you have like a spot-on conversation with a colleague and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's what I try to do. I try to plan ahead, because otherwise I'm stuck in that loop of doing just one more thing, and so on. And I don't understand slacking. It is a concept because I'm generally I overwork. Okay. So yeah, this doesn't really apply to me, but I try to plan ahead.
And maybe one last one. You've had some fixes at the end. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in those fixes that they are realistically to be adopted by the individual, like the people responsible, individual people, staff engineers and companies?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of them work, actually. I've seen, even in WeVideo, I feel, we are doing a lot of steps into that direction, and we are setting rules against AI usage and what needs review and what doesn't need review. So I've seen some of them in practice. Otherwise are wishful thinking and just examples, some exploration. Honestly, if anyone says that they know what's going on with AI and where this is going, I feel like they're lying. We're all just experimenting. And even what we're doing currently, personally or as a company, we don't know if it will turn out into something very healthy. But at least we have to have some intention of doing that and not doing the 3 PRs per day done by Devin thing, right? So, cool. if there isn't anything else, I leave this feedback form for you if you want to leave a feedback. And before we go, I want to thank you all. And if you want to stick around for a beer or anything afterwards, we're probably going to go to check-in below. I'm saying it right now for the entire audience because sometimes I forget and then people leave and they don't know we still hang out. Thank you very much, guys. It's anonymous, by